Looking at me, you can't tell that I've had multiple brain injuries and concussions. Brain injury is one of the hard things to treat and to find treatment for because it is invisible. You can't see it on the outside. And it's also really hard to explain the lived experience to other people. I sometimes have a hard time finding the words to describe why I feel, what I feel, and how I'm feeling. When you have a brain injury or you've had a concussion or anything that's affected your brain, there's often this general sense of, I feel unwell, I don't feel right, I feel off, I'm doing all of these things that I don't understand why I'm doing them, and I can't exactly figure out why, and I don't exactly know what, but I just know that I feel different and I feel really bad all the time. And I've lived with brain injury for over a decade, and I've seen a lot of doctors and specialists, and some of them have been able to help more than others. One thing that I have found that has really helped me is functional neurology. So today I'm going to explain to you and take you through some of my personal brain injury recovery journey and share how and why it helped me to discover the root of why I've had brain injury symptoms. Thank you so much for watching and coming along on this journey. My name's CRISTABELLE. If you don't know me already, I'm a brain injury survivor, and I've been doing awareness and advocacy work for a number of years now. I host a podcast called Hope Survives Brain Injury Podcast. I'm also a singer-songwriter and started writing music after my brain injury. And I have multiple albums out and share hope and encouragement, and I host an online support group called Hope After Head Injury, which may be the reason why you're here. So welcome. This is my new YouTube channel for Hope After Head Injury. I've been for a long time putting all of my videos on my personal channel that has a lot of my music and other things, and I decided it was time to create a channel for Hope After Head Injury to more specifically share stuff about brain injury. And so I'm really excited for my first kind of series on this channel to be related to my personal treatment and recovery journey. I also think it's important to say that this is a very brief overview of my story. It's not everything that I've gone through. It's also not everything in the treatment. There's just so much more to it. And so if you stay subscribed to Hope After Head Injury, I do have some more video blogs coming soon with a lot more details. But this is just going to give you an overview and let you know some of the details of my recovery journey. And my hope is that it encourages you to never give up on your recovery journey, no matter what that looks like for you. It may be functional neurology, it may not. All of our brain injuries are different, but there is something called neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to heal and repair itself. And so all of our brains have amazing capabilities to heal. It's naturally wired into our brains to be able to heal and to be able to recover. And I just want to encourage anybody who's been through a brain injury, do not give up on finding new treatments and new things. There's always new treatments coming out. There's always more research being done. Since my first brain injury happened, there is so much more treatments and research. Concussion protocols have recently changed, so they no longer recommend to just rest and do nothing. There is a new protocol. So don't give up. That's the point of this, is to not give up. So now we'll go into some of my journey, and I hope it encourages you guys that there is always hope and to never give up. So my first TBI was in December 2007. So it's been quite a long time. And if you want to learn more about my specific recovery journey, you can listen to the first episode of my podcast, Hope Survives Brain Injury Podcast. I think it's called Finding Hope in Life with Brain Injury, something like that. I'll put it here and I'll put the link in the description. But in that episode, my mom is a special guest on the podcast, and we talk all about our family's journey and everything that I went through in detail. I don't have time to go through everything today on this video because there's a lot more I want to tell you guys. But as a brief overview, I had my first TBI. I had to relearn how to get dressed, how to take a shower. The doctors didn't even think I'd finish high school. I struggled with just getting through the day. I experienced a lot of depression and fatigue and exhaustion and so many symptoms that we didn't understand. And it was a lot of years, a lot of different treatments, a lot of different therapies. And I was able to graduate high school. I was able to go to college, but I still kept struggling over and over again with symptoms and with hitting my head over and over again. So long story short, I had undiagnosed vestibular system dysfunction and undiagnosed dysautonomia. So I was falling all the time, and those two things affect your balance and your spatial recognition a lot. But because I could hold myself together, because it's invisible, because I could walk, it was hard for me, but I could do it. It went overlooked and not treated or seen. So I kept falling and hitting my head again and hitting my head again and hitting my head again, and I kept getting more and more brain injuries. But through that journey of getting more and more concussions, I grew more and more passionate about bringing awareness to concussion and brain injury just through living through it. And so back in 2015, I posted a video on Facebook and on YouTube called "You Look Fine, The Struggles of an Invisible Injury." It was one of the first videos that I'd made, and I wasn't really sure how many people were going to see it, but it started to get shared a lot, and it started a lot of people coming to my Hope After Head Injury page on Facebook, and I started to realize more that I could use my voice to help other people. When I first had my brain injury, I had trouble speaking like this. I couldn't really express myself in a way that was able to describe what I was feeling. But as the years passed, I learned how to share and express what I was going through and started posting videos about it. And from there, I started to be invited to speak at brain injury conferences, and that grew. And so I started to be keynote speaking at different brain injury conferences. I spoke at the Mayo Clinic's brain injury conference. I spoke at a conference in North Dakota. I spoke at a conference in Rhode Island. I spoke at a ton of brain injury events, and it continued to grow my passion for sharing awareness. I was also releasing music and doing brain injury advocacy with the Brain Injury Association of Pennsylvania and the Brain Injury Association of America, doing concerts and ministry events, and just sharing as much hope as I possibly could. I still had a lot of brain injury symptoms, and I felt off all the time, but I was able to do so many things and share hope even despite all of the symptoms that I still struggled with every day. So fast forward to 2019. I have been living with this brain injury. I've been struggling, but I've been sharing hope and awareness and encouragement. And I am speaking at a brain injury conference in North Dakota. And at this same conference that I was speaking at, there was a doctor speaking there, Dr. Jeremy Schmoe from the Functional Neurology Center. And there were some other people there that knew him and connected us. And long story short, he took one look at my gait, the way I was walking, right there in the hotel lobby. My mom was with me, traveling with me because my balance was off. I really had a hard time traveling. And I wanted to go do these events though, so my mom would often come with me, or pretty much always. My mom would always come with me. And he saw how I was walking, and he did some just testing right there in the hotel lobby. And he said, "You have this going on and this going on." And I was just starting to cry. My mom started to cry, and I was like, I've never had a doctor really take these things seriously as far as the way that I walked and different things like that. I had been doing vestibular therapy like a couple times a week earlier the year before, and they noticed some irregularities with my heart rate and my blood pressure from seated to standing. And so I was sent to a cardiologist, And at this cardiologist, they did testing with a Holter monitor, they did a tilt table test, and they did, what other tests did they do? EKG, and found out that I got diagnosed with dysautonomia, which is a dysfunction of your autonomic nervous system. Now, I'm going to link a podcast episode where Dr. Schmoe explains exactly what dysautonomia is, and I hope that that brings some more understanding, because I had no idea what it was when I got diagnosed with it. I was like, what is this? Okay, I have it. What does that mean? Basically, my heart rate and blood pressure would get really irregulated because my autonomic nervous system had been affected by my brain injuries. And so that's your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, my reflexes, and everything pretty much just got turned around and messed up. For so long, I just thought that I was out of shape. I didn't know everyone's heart rate and blood pressure didn't change going up the stairs. I actually didn't even know that's what was happening to me. I just knew I felt lightheaded all the time. I felt lightheaded and exhausted and fatigued, and I always felt off. I've never felt like grounded or steady. I've had a lot of trouble exercising and doing things that everyone else seemed to be able to do easily. It was like every single thing felt like such a hard task and such a hard thing for me to do. And so I learned that there's a name for that, and there's a reason that I feel all these things that I couldn't even explain or describe. So in 2019, I went to the Functional Neurology Center for a 5-day intensive, and that changed my life. I'm going to share with you some clips of what happened when I went there. So here's a clip of me trying to march in place with my eyes closed the first day that I was there on Monday. You can see that it's very unsteady. They called it ataxia. I just did not know where my body was in space. So I was there for 5 days. On Friday, here's a clip of me marching in place with my eyes closed, the same thing. Now you can see a huge difference here. And that is a visual representation of how much my brain improved in those 5 days in the intensive I went there. And there were also some other things with my knee reflex. So I'm going to show you this clip. This was my right knee. I have problems all the way down the right side of my body, right-sided weakness and different things like that. And so my right knee reflex, it existed, but it really wasn't strong. So the first day I was there, that my knee reflex was not kicking into gear. Friday, the last day I was there, my reflex is there.
All right.
Oh, I'm not used to doing that. That's crazy.
Okay. A little bit more going on in here. So this reflex looks better. This looks better here.
Okay.
I mean, I had to repetitively hit that like 10 times to
Yeah,
get that to
even
even
get one.
kick in and come in on that right side.
You can also see my reaction times, but this is showing my reaction time the first day I was there. Now here's my reaction time the last day. So there was a lot more that happened that week. It was very overwhelming, but it was the first time that I realized that I didn't have to live struggling all the time. And because it was invisible and I was high functioning, I felt like, I'm doing okay, I'm doing fine, I'm managing, but every day dealing with fatigue and balance and headaches and all this stuff. And after coming home from that intensive week, my whole life changed. I was able to go to restaurants and have conversations with background noise. I was able to walk up and down steps without looking at my feet. I was able to walk in general without looking at my feet, which was very new. And so I'm a singer-songwriter, like I mentioned before, and I filmed a music video. And in it, the cameraman asked me to walk forward and sing. It was on rocky ground. I was wearing wedge heels, and I walked forward and sang at the same time on camera without looking at my feet. So here's a clip of that.
I'm seeing through different eyes. My battle scars are nothing to hide. I'll shout it out
oh my goodness, like that would never have been possible. And that was filmed that summer right after I went to the FNC. And so there are a lot of other ways that my life changed. My headaches decreased. I was able to take on more projects. I actually started a part-time job from home that I would never have been able to take on before. I just felt so different. And that he gave me home exercises. So it wasn't like I just went there and then it's like, oh, bye, you're off on your own. He gave me home exercises to do, and it really, really helped me to keep my recovery going. Now, enter December 2019. It's almost Christmas time. I was carrying, I think it was like Christmas decorations or something. After the FNC, I was feeling so good, I didn't even think twice about carrying a box down carpeted steps wearing socks. And I slipped like anyone would, and I fell. I didn't actually hit my head, but I jarred my body so bad that it caused a concussion from the jarring of the brain inside the skull. So a little known fact, you don't actually have to hit your head to get a concussion. You can also get it just from the momentum of your brain bouncing inside your skull. And so I fell in December and I got another concussion. I tried to keep doing the exercises that he gave me, and some of them helped. Some of them I started to feel a lot more symptomatic. And so I knew there was something off. But the interesting thing is that I've had like over a dozen concussions. And after this concussion, a lot of what he had done earlier that year at the FNC stayed. So my balance, it had gotten worse after the concussion, but it wasn't worse than it was before I ever went to see him. So it was like if I started here and then I went up to here after my first visit to the FNC, I had a concussion. It was like I came down like to like here maybe, but I wasn't all the way down to where I was before. So I started to have a lot more symptoms, but it wasn't as bad as it was before. So enter from 2000, that was December 2019, right? So going into 2020, and I am struggling. It's the pandemic. So the pandemic comes and this new concussion set off some new symptoms. My speech started to slur a lot, especially when I got tired. I was getting a lot of headaches. I was getting a lot of exhaustion and fatigue. So one of the things I did not mention earlier from the first intensive at the FNC was that they do a metabolic testing, so blood work, so they make sure they don't miss anything. So he had seen that I had some chronic inflammation. And so I had gone gluten and dairy free. I was doing all these things to help with my headaches and to help with my recovery and my brain health. And I was still having a lot of symptoms, but I was still able to manage going to grad school and having podcasts, my Hope Survives podcast, and keeping my part-time job. Now I got really stressed and anxious and, struggled with a lot, but I was still able to manage so much more even after my new concussion. So the effects stayed, but I began to struggle a lot more. I could feel that my dysautonomia was off. I could feel that my balance was off again. And the fatigue and the concussions have become so bad that I had to stop some things. And I've been just in that place of struggling every day. I also think it's really important to say the effect that the pandemic had on my realization of my symptoms. And so I was struggling a lot during the pandemic with my balance, but I never left my house like at all, or barely left my room even. So I didn't actually notice that my symptoms were that bad until spring 2021 of this year, when I started to go in public again for the first time. And this summer, I realized walking in a crowd, I couldn't do it. My vision and my balance would get completely off and I would shut down. And so I was having all of these troubles when I started to go back into public again. And I realized like I could not handle it, hardly at all. Every day I've been having worse headaches. Every day I've been dealing with fatigue to the point of exhaustion, to the point of crying, to the point of non-functional, having to stop doing a lot of things I used to do. And so once things opened up from the pandemic and we started to resume like going to stores and different things like that, my body just couldn't handle it. My brain couldn't handle it. And during the pandemic, I think I managed better because I didn't go anywhere. So this summer comes and I realize my issues are worse than I had realized. So I knew that I needed some help again. So this month, I went back to the FNC for a 3-day intensive, and Dr. Schmoe reevaluated me and was able to find some very specific neurological things that were going on. One of which is my eyes were off, or this way, and I've been tilting my head to even out my eyes, which has caused my neck to get messed up, which has caused a lot of headaches in the back of my head and up here. And so my vision has been off, my dysautonomia, my balance, and a whole host of other things has been off from this new concussion. When you've had a brain injury for as long as I have, and you hit your head again and you have more concussions, it is easy to feel like, it brings symptoms back. But sometimes it's a new injury that's going to bring new challenges. So anytime you hit your head, there's a possibility at some point it could be a flare-up or it could be a new injury. Now, I also did an episode of my podcast about this with Natasha Welch, and I'm going to link that here as well. And she very clearly explains the difference between a flare-up and a new injury. Now, one of the main differences is that a flare-up brings back symptoms you're already currently experiencing, but makes them more intense. A new injury may bring back symptoms that you haven't had for years or that you've never had, and that's showing a new injury. So I definitely had a new injury that was causing more problems. This week, I went to the FNC, and one of the biggest takeaways was learning the root of why I've been feeling the way I've been feeling. Dr. Schmoe was able to figure out exactly why I've been so fatigued, why I've been having headaches, narrow it in, and give me targeted treatment and targeted exercises to specifically work on specific areas of my brain and my eyes and my balance that need some help. And I've already seen so many improvements just from being there for a couple days. And so I filmed everything that happened while I was there. And over the next week or so, I'm going to be sharing very detailed video blogs as to what exactly happened at the FNC to give you guys an inside look into what it's like and an inside look into my therapies. And my hope is that it provides you hope and encouragement to know that there is hope. No matter what brain injury that you've had, no matter how many years you've been living with it, there is hope. And never give up on finding new treatments and new therapies that could work for you. Functional neurology has been something that's helped me. I'm not saying it's the perfect fit for everyone because everybody's brain injury is different. But I hope that giving you guys an inside look into my recovery gives you some hope and encouragement to not give up on your journey. I cannot even express how grateful I am to Dr. Jeremy Schmoe for just the way that he was able to help me. And so if you're interested in the FNC, you can visit their website. And like I said, it might not be a fit for everybody, but they will do a free phone consultation to see if it's a fit for you. So definitely check that out and stay tuned, subscribe, and more videos are coming. Please comment and let me know if this has been encouraging or what you want to hear from me. And I'm really excited to start doing more videos here on the Hope After Injury channel. So I'll see you guys very soon for our next video. Bye everyone.